Hey everyone, this is Tell the Truth Sports Radio. I'm your host, Ron Fitch. I'm going to tell you the truth about how Notre Dame was able to survive a big game against North Carolina in North Carolina, the college football landscape, what I think is going to happen, and my NFL predictions and what was wrong with Dallas and that terrible prediction of mine about the Cowboys. Well, let's get to college football. Notre Dame beats North Carolina, and I'm gonna tell you something. North Carolina came out with some haymakers in the first quarter. Drive right down Notre Dame's throat. Uh, Sam Howell, 6-yard pass, Emory Simmons. Notre Dame came right back down the field. Kyler Williams, who had 115 yards rushing, hard yards, uh, tied the game at 7. Carolina comes right back, right down the field. 1-yard run, Sam Howell, and there's 14-7. But Notre Dame comes right back down with a 4-yard pass, Ian Book to Kyler Williams. So Notre Dame was able to stay in the game by counterpunching because Carolina came out flying. I'm like, uh-oh, Notre Dame could be in trouble. This is big for the rest of the teams that are trying to catch Notre Dame. Both teams committed stupid penalties they were able to cash in on field goals off a stupid defensive penalty. So 17-17 at the end of the second quarter. Third quarter, both teams played pretty good defense, but then Notre Dame's front four really, really got to Powell. They were really after him. Then they ended up getting a big drive in the third quarter. Ben Sharonik scores on a 13-yard run. It was like a tight end-around run, and they ended up scoring as 24-17, and they held it. And Notre Dame had a chance to put the game away, make it 27-17, and their field goal kicker missed an easy kick, and I thought that was going to come back to bite them, but it didn't. Their defense held. Every time their defense had to hold them, they held them. And then the last 4 minutes of the game, Notre Dame runs a long, they have a long drive. A game-finishing drive, put the game away, wins 31-17. And I'm going to tell you something. They earned that because Carolina battled. But, the big thing about Notre Dame was the fact that they were able to get sacks on their defense. 6 sacks. 6 sacks. They were able to get after Powell, and that was big. And Kyler Williams, 23 carries, 124 yards. Ian Book ran the ball smartly. 8 runs for 48 yards. It was a solid, good road win. And now I needed to see that because I wasn't sure. And I if they run the table, they're in. And I'm going to give you – and Oregon just lost to Oregon State tonight. So that eliminates the Pac-12 because even if USC runs the table, they beat a Oregon team, a one-loss Oregon team. You need an undefeated versus undefeated to have a chance, and you don't. So I can break this down. I could tell you who's in it. Florida, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Alabama. The top 6 teams. No one else is in it. Georgia has an outside chance. That's about it. No one else has a chance from here on in. Now, as far as your New Year's Day Bowl, BYU, I hope BYU and Cincinnati can schedule and play each other, and then one of those teams get in the New Year's Bowl. If Northwestern loses to Ohio State, I hope they get in too. But here's the landscape for the Final Four. The winner of Northwestern and Ohio State, Texas A&M is hoping that Notre Dame gets annihilated by Clemson and they could sneak in. Or if Alabama loses to Florida, Alabama would drop to 4. Notre Dame would be the ACC championship game would be a de facto elimination game. But I'm expecting Alabama it won't be easy because of Kyle Trask and Pitts. how good their offense is. So it's going to be high scoring, but I believe Alabama's going to beat up Auburn tomorrow, unless Nix has a great game and plays over his head. But I like Alabama in a revenge game at home. They'll take care of Arkansas. I believe they're going to take care of Florida. After that, you got Ohio State. I think Ohio State moves up. I believe Clemson will beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame only dropped to 4. And you're going to have Clemson, Ohio State again, and Alabama, Notre Dame. Unless Notre Dame gets annihilated, and that opens the door for A&M. So A&M has got to be totally against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to run the table. They got an easier schedule the rest of the year. But they need Trevor Lawrence to go clean off on Notre Dame. And then that would get Texas A&M the 4 seed. And there you have it for college. Now, the NFL report. Before I get to the big game, Tampa, Kansas City, Brady, Mahomes, then Indy, and Tennessee to rematch, I got to talk about a level of incompetence when it comes to coaching. That was the Dallas game. I looked at the talent. This is stupid me on this. This is how not to predict a game. I just looked at the talent. I didn't look at any intangibles, how the Cowboys cannot get out of their own way, and how poorly coached they could be at times. And McCarthy, I thought, was a better coach than this. But the game is Washington's up. No, it's tied 10-10. Both teams are going back and forth. The Cowboys go for it in their own territory. They try to pass instead of running Ezekiel Elliott. Stupid. Because he's running pretty good. He didn't get enough carries in this game. So you give them the short field, and then Washington scores. And they weren't moving the ball as well. So you give them the short field, 17-10. Dallas gets a field goal, 17-13. The Skins, the Cowboys allow another field goal, 20-13. The Skins have the ball. Alex Smith throws an interception to Smith. Smith gets run down on McLaren. This was a great play. I know you saw what DK Metcalf did with the Cardinals. And this was the same great hustle play. Dallas still should have scored and tied the game. They run Ezekiel Elliott. They stop him. To me, I'd have ran Ezekiel Elliott on first down, second down, and third down. Of course, the third down play, 3rd and 10 play, Lamb should have caught, but still, I probably would have just took a chance. The way Ezekiel was running so hard in short yardage, or Pollard, I'd have just tried to bang that in there. All right. That ain't the worst decision of the game. The next time the Cowboys get the ball, it's 4th and 10 at their own 24, and they run a fake punt reverse that got nowhere. This, to me, was the worst fake punt play in the history of the NFL. This was the stupidest play just because of the distance, the game situation. And then Gibson scores on a 23-yard run, and that's it. You're done. You're psychologically done. When you make calls like that, you are throwing your own team under the bus. And then the Skins scored the next couple of touchdowns, 41-60. That was just stupid. And where I thought the Cowboys are going to win the division, I don't know now. And I like what Washington's doing. Gibson, I like McLaren. Smith is smart. They play my Pittsburgh Steelers the following Sunday. Is going to be at Pittsburgh. It's going to be a very, very, very tough out for Pittsburgh. It'll be the toughest game to win. I'm going to give you a reason after I break these next 2 games down why that'll be Pittsburgh's toughest game to play as far as being undefeated. That'll be the game that's going to be really difficult to win. I'll give you my reasons. But now Tampa and Kansas City, Mahomes versus Brady. Now, look, after the way Tampa's playing, it looks like a mismatch, but I'm going to tell you why it's not going to be. This comes down to who gets to who as far as pass rush. Brady's not as older, and he's always had trouble when you get to him. That's when because he's not mobile. Mahomes, you can get to Mahomes, and Mahomes could scramble out, throw an off-bounds pass on the money to Kelsey or Tyreek Evans in their scramble drill. So you need to get him on the ground. You could pressure Mahomes, and you're still going to get burned. So that is the difference. Brady could get rich on this pass defense. I understand they keep teams at an 84 at quarterback at an 84 rating, which is low. But I didn't like what I saw against the Raiders. I think they could be had. They look like they did 2 years ago. I think their defense can be a sieve sometimes. They have some players. And I see the stats. They're 26 against the run. So Ronald Jones got to get going. I understand they're 7th as far as points. So they let you drive down the field, but they don't allow you to get in the end zone. I think Brady's going to get in the end zone. I think this is the time. If Brady doesn't go Antonio Brown, just look for him all the time. Let Gronk get going, because you see Waller went crazy on the Raiders, and they were guys open all up and down the field. Goodwin, Evans, and Gronk. You got to have the steady diet. And then if Brown's open, you get him. But that's a steady for Brady. You have to do that. And as far as the Tampa defense is concerned, they have 14 interceptions, so they're very opportunistic. They're had a pretty good. They're good against the pass. This is the problem. Raheem Morris loves to blitz, and they're good at blitzing. Sometimes they'll come with an exotic blitz where JPP, Pierre-Paul, is in the passing lane, and he catches interceptions because of how confusing they could be. Because of their back end of their secondary is young and inexperienced, they blitz. All right, here's a problem. Mahomes has a 98 QBR against the blitz. So he loves, when he sees that, oh, man, okay. Hardman and Kelsey and Hill and even Hilaire on the screens, we are going to have fun now, because they could blitz and he could throw a screen to Hilaire and he can get about 20 or 30. And then Tampa's got to stop Hilaire on the ground, and Tampa's pretty good against the run, but if you don't stop Hilaire, if he gets 5 or 6 yards and 10 yards a chunk, now you can't play a deep safety. Now your safeties and corners got to come in to honor the run. Oh, it's on. And I do think Kansas City's going to score a lot of points, but Tampa's going to score a lot of points. I think it's going to be like 42-41. I'm gonna pick Tampa in upset. I think Brady gets this. I don't pick Tampa to go far in the playoffs. There's so many. They have holes, but for this one game in Tampa, I think they could pull off the upset. But they're not going to – if they blitz and they're in a position where they have to blitz, they're going to get beat. And I don't like picking against Patrick Mahomes. I'm going on a hunch. Some of my hunches have worked. Some of them have blown up. Like the Cowboy hunch blew up in my face like a smithy. This one could blow up in my face with Patrick Mahomes. But I don't like Kansas City's defense. I saw Carolina light them up. I saw Oakland light them up twice. Run the clock out the first time with 4 minutes left. And then Tampa came off a loss where Brady made a lot of mistakes. They're going to be motivated. I like Tampa. Indianapolis, Tennessee. Tennessee has been owned by the Indianapolis Colts, going all the way back to the Peyton Manning days. When they've been, ever since Indianapolis been in the South, they just beat Tennessee all the time. They beat them up the last time in Tennessee pretty easy. Their defense is second in the league, Indianapolis. They did an okay job on Henry. Henry's going to get 100 on anybody. Tannehill wasn't good. He had an 83 rating. He only had 147 yards passing. Leonard and that linebacking crew of the Colts is as good as they come. This is why I think Tennessee might win. Tannehill could be a little better because DeForest Buckner, and Autry, their best pass rushers are not going to be there, and their best run stoppers. Now Henry could run a little bit because Indianapolis plays a two-deep zone. Now they can't defend A.J. Brown as easy as they did before because they had a safety. They had a cornerback underneath, and they had a safety over top, so Brown can't beat you deep. Now you got to bring your guys in because you don't have Buckner and Autry in the pass rush. If Henry could get off enough, that allows Tannehill to play fake. Now you got a problem. Now A.J. Brown and all the receivers they have can get going. But Phil Rivers has been hot. 4 out of the last 5 games, he's been really good. And he had 105 passer rating 4 out of the last 5 games. And he's been good. And Tennessee has believe they're 24th ranked in defense, but they played pretty good last week. They got to Jackson. This is going to be a task. If Tennessee could get enough stops, they could win. This is another hunch, only because if DeForest Buckner and Autry was playing, I am not picking the Tennessee Titans on the road, but I'm going to take another hunch and go with the Titans on the road. Now, the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game was moved to Tuesday because a lot of the Baltimore players, including Jackson, got the coronavirus. And my prayers are up for the Ohio State coach and all the people in college football and NFL who contacted this hideous virus. My only problem is you're moving the Pittsburgh game to Tuesday. Baltimore gets to play the following Monday. Pittsburgh plays Sunday at 1 o'clock. You play a Tuesday game against the Ravens, a physical game. You play the Washington Redskins, who are playing a lot better, at 1 o'clock with their pass rush. I got a good look at Washington, and they're playing with confidence. So you're going to play that game, an emotional game. You're telling me that you got a couple of days to recover. Why couldn't the NFL move the Steeler game? Because they weren't the team that contacted the virus. Why couldn't you move the Steeler game to Monday or have a triple header or make Baltimore play that Sunday? Why is the Steelers being penalized? That's what makes no sense. Totally makes no sense to me. I do not like that. Like I said, my prayers are for all the Ravens and every player in the NFL and in college to just recover quickly. And hopefully there's no more third wave. The second wave ends, and then whatever vaccines, whatever needs to be done, we go back to normal, whatever that is. Hey, finally, before I go, I'm going to talk about the fight I wish would have took place 16 years ago, and that's the Roy Jones-Tyson exhibition. There's no knockdowns. Why? I'm going to tell the truth. I can't give you a dime for that fight. I can't. Now, even at their advanced age, you're talking about knockouts, you're allowed to just go all out. Okay, you got my interest because, they forgot more than most boxers know as far as their boxing skills, but it's more or less a pillow fight. You're neutering both guys. They're just, come on now. But I met both these fighters, and I just absolutely had great experiences with both fighters. Tyson was super nice, and Roy Jones I got to know pretty good through a mutual friend. First, Tyson, he was unbeatable until Douglas, but it was circumstances that led to that. Like Roy Jones and Tyson, I forgot his name, Tarver and Buster Douglas were just benefactors of issues that happened in both their lives. And for Tyson, it was the Robert Gibbons, Don King, Caton. It was a whole lot of mess swirling around and dealing with the drug use. And He wasn't as focused. I tell you what, Mike Tyson with this settled in brain fought this more mature Tyson fought back then. You know, it's like George Foreman, he matured as he got older. But if you had this mature Tyson to go along with the 80s version, if you could take what he has now with his maturity and he's more settled as a person and put that into what he was in the 80s, he'd have lasted a long time. He might have got Marciano's record. As far as Roy, the only thing that hurt him was when he dropped down from heavyweight to light heavyweight. No fighter I ever saw in the history of sport was able to drop down, and it never worked out good. Sugar Ray Leonard did the same thing. He dropped down from light heavyweight to welterweight, and it was annihilated by Terry Norris. Terry Norris was another benefactor. He was at the right place at the right time. Sometimes with like Leon Spinks, sometimes you get the all-time great fighters, either they're past their prime or some circumstance happens, and a C plus or C minus fighter can get a win just because of the circumstance, and that's what happened. But you know, they're gonna fight. They're happy. They're doing what they love. It just the rules are not. I'm not good with the rules. That's just not gonna fly with me.